And I want you to hear the reply, because here is part of the mystery that we find in the Word of God. It says here, Jesus answered them in verse 23, "The hour is come that the Son of Man should be glorified." What in the world is he talking about? The Greeks said, "We want to see Jesus." And Jesus said, "The hour is come when the Son of Man is to be glorified. For verily I say to you, except a corn of wheat falls into the ground and dies, it will abide alone. But if it dies, it will bring forth much fruit." What in the world is Jesus trying to tell these Greek people? You see, the Bible is incomprehensible unless you hear a voice within you telling you what God is saying. So what is he really saying to the Greek people? I want you to hear this carefully. He's saying to those Greek people, this is not what you came to see. But give me 3 days when the seed will have fallen into the ground and it will have died, but it will have produced something. That's what you want to see. I want to tell you today that Christ is in you, a seed. Many of you people here today, Christ is simply a seed. And that's why your impact upon the earth has really had no effect. Because it's not the seed that the world wants to see. It's what the seed can produce. You hear this? That's what it needs. It's waiting to see. We talk about the manifestation of the sons of God. But do you understand that the seed must die? And you are that seed. Why? Because Christ is your identity. Isn't that true? Christ is your identity. And Christ is the seed. Abraham, look up. Count the stars. Because your seed will be as the stars of heaven. He says to you today, look up. You see those stars? Your seed will be as the stars of heaven. What? In number? Yes, sir. In quality? Yes, sir. They will be as the stars of heaven. Where are they today, beloved? Where are they? I only travel in about 9 or 10 countries in the world. But I see enough to know that there is a crying need today among the peoples of this world to know Christ. I see people that are dying of hunger today. I see people living in total poverty. I see people that are sick all over this world. Go to Africa and see that AIDS is destroying the nation. But not just AIDS. Look in America today. Look in Australia where I come from. And see the sickness. Where? In the world? No, among God's people. Among God's people. And when the world looks in and sees and says, you get cancer? Yes, sir. Oh, we get cancer. Do you have asthma? Well, yes, we have people have asthma. Oh, we have asthma too. And all of these diseases. And the world looks in and says, why should I come and join you? Our king is no worse than your king. Your king can't do any more for you than our king can do for us. You see? Beloved, this is a day when if ever society or if ever the population on this earth needed to know Christ, to see that Christ, having experienced the 3 days. It's today. We talk about the manifestation of the sons of God, but it shall not be until we understand what Jesus Christ was talking about. Let's go back to 1 Corinthians 15, because the Apostle Paul is going to show us here exactly what he was talking about. In verse in verse 34, he says, awake to righteousness. He doesn't say stop sinning and become righteous. He said just wake up and you will discover that you are righteous. Why is that? Because Christ is your identity. But you're still asleep, therefore you're a mortal human being. And you wonder why God doesn't have a whole lot to say to you, because God doesn't know anything about a mortal human being. Because God never created one. Therefore He doesn't know anything about that. God does not see you today as a mortal human being. He sees you as Christ. Because that's how you were created. That's what you were in the beginning. When God spoke the word, said, let there be man, that was you. That was the man. Who was that? That was Jesus Christ. The only Son God ever created. That was who you are. And that's all God knows. When that woman that was taken out of Adam was brought to Him, what did He say? He said, you are bone of my bones. You are flesh of my flesh. You were taken out of me. You are a woman and you're taken out of me. You belong to me. And as Jesus Christ looks at you today, what's He saying to you? You are bone of my bones. You are flesh of my flesh. You were taken out of me. Or you thought you were taken out of me, because actually you were never taken out of Him. You were never taken out of Him. Genesis chapter 2 is an allegory. It is not literal. Religion will tell you it's literal. It's impossible for it to be literal. Have you ever seen a tree of knowledge of good and evil? Have you ever seen a tree of life? If you ever found one of those, you'd make a fortune. But see, no. Nobody's ever seen such a thing. So therefore, it could not be literal. The Garden of Eden can't be literal. In fact, the Garden of Eden is in every one of you today. You have that garden within you. Because that's the place where God said, that's where I'll meet you. That's where we'll make love, there, in that garden. So, He says here, awake to righteousness and sin not. For some have not the knowledge of God. Oh Lord, help us this morning. Help us to have the knowledge of God here today. So some men will say, verse 35, how are the dead raised up? So everybody is interested in resurrection. And so we ought to be. Because I want to tell you, without a resurrection, there will be this generation that God is speaking about that will serve Him will not be on the earth without a resurrection. And I'm talking about your resurrection. Now, if you have been trained in the religious world and you believe that someday out there somewhere, sometime, there's going to be a great resurrection, and if you happen to die, God will turn over the graves and bring up your bones, put them together, put a new body on it, take you to heaven, and you learn to play a harp. I don't think so. I want to tell you, there's no resurrection out there. The resurrection that you need took place 2,000 years ago. 2,000 years ago. That's when the resurrection took place.